He's a world traveler. We have been taking him to Italy, to Greece, to Vancouver, to China, to Japan, to Canada, to so many places. He has been traveling almost every year. And also he's a black diamond skier. He's a snowmobile rider, a dirt bike rider. He plays piano.
So what you've just listened to is the most inspiring part, or the sweetest part of a developing story that can easily be described as any parent's worst nightmare. There's an element involving the online gaming platform Roblox. And what I intend to do really is just to look at this story and see what parents of teenagers can learn in terms of tips and lessons from the story. So it's a story of a 15-year-old boy, Thomas Medling, who, according to the story, I would have really loved to post the entire story, but I'm sure you know, for copyright reasons, I can't do that. So this young man told his parents in the morning on the 9th of January this year, 3 weeks ago, that he wouldn't be coming home from school, that they shouldn't pick him up at the normal time, that he would be hanging out with friends till around 9 p.m. And so his parents should pick him up by 9 p.m. And the parents were excited because, according to the mom, it's not something he does always. So they are quite big on him being, getting socially involved. And so they were excited that he wanted to do that. And so 9 p.m., the dad went to the school to pick him up, and he wasn't there to be picked up. The dad got in touch with the school security. They checked the entire dorm, spent the whole night up until 1 a.m. looking for him within the school and getting in touch with everybody, and they couldn't find him. So obviously they had to get the police involved, and the initial story, because he left the name of the person he said he was going to hang out with the parents. So they got in touch with this person, and according to the mom's initial narration, he said that young person he said he was going to hang out with said they only attended class together, and that was all. And I think another one told him that he said he was going to meet someone with whom he had been chatting on Roblox. So yeah, so that's that bit. And so the search is still on, and we are hopeful that something good is going to come out of that search. But the most recent information we're getting is not really encouraging, because they said he left the school around 3:30 p.m., hopped on a train or on a bus or something, and a camera caught him, a surveillance camera caught his presence somewhere around the Manhattan Bridge around 7:06, they said. 7:09 p.m. was the last time they were able to catch any action on his phone, any activity on his phone. And at 7:10, a surveillance camera around the Manhattan Bridge also recorded some form of splash in the water. And clearly you can see the narrative that is being built, but this is a case involving a family. And not just a family. If you listen to the opening video, you can see the life that young man has had. So the list did not end with what you just heard. He speaks Chinese, he speaks Spanish, he is what a lot of young people would describe as having the dream life. And a lot of parents also would also want to, I'm a parent too, would also wish and want to give their children that kind of life. And so the confusing part in the whole thing now is, what exactly happened to this young man? A few possibilities. One, the conversation or narrative about Roblox has been partly blocked because the police are saying that there's no evidence anywhere that he went to meet anyone. However, the mom has also discovered in the course of this whole problem that, because when he created the account, the gaming account, the mom linked it, and that's the thing about this whole parental thing. The mom linked it to her email so that if he creates any new account, she would get notification. But in the course of the investigation, she has found out now that he has 5 other Roblox accounts that she doesn't have any knowledge of. So he bypassed the entire security, created a separate email, according to the mom, and was able to create other accounts, gaming accounts, where he most likely has been interacting with people. And for those who are not familiar with Roblox, so it's an online gaming platform that a lot of young people are crazy about. A lot of my friends' kids are actually very crazy about it. And this platform has, I think the last time I checked, about 83 million daily users. And of those 83 million daily users, I think about 35 million of them are children, some as young as 13. And there's a lot of cases of weird people going on there pretending to be children and exploiting children. There are cases of, I mean, there are things I can't say here because obviously uh, it will be censored. But you understand where I'm going with this. There are cases. As at the time I was reading, I think a couple of months ago, I heard there were almost 80 active cases of people who try to do very wrong things to children. And so it's a platform that is very dangerous. Yes, they keep saying they put all the measures in place to protect children, but it's a dangerous platform. But in this particular case, there might not be a specific linkage between Thomas's case and the platform. But what's undeniable is a lot of children have met harm on these platforms. And so what I intend to do now is just to look at this particular story and see how parents will be able to position themselves to avoid whatever may have happened. The hope is that this young man would eventually get in touch with his parents. So maybe he was actually chatting to someone and they got in touch and the person has deceived them to stay away from public and all of that. And even if it's the other way around, what we are hoping it's not related to the whole splash and everything, then you would wonder why a boy who, according to this story, and I'll link the video in the description because I can't put more than this here for copyright reasons. He has almost everything one would ask for in life. But the problem is, there's a difference between what you want for your child and what they want for themselves. And so if it is the case that the splash is related to why he's missing, one would then wonder what could be happening to him to the extent that he would do that kind of thing to himself. And so it leaves a lot of questions. To be honest, it leaves more questions than answers. And so the first tip I would provide to any parent is you need to build a strong relationship with your teenager or with your child. In fact, you shouldn't wait until they become teenagers before you start building those relationships. And a lot goes into that relationship. And I use the word relationship deliberately because when we talk about relationships, you would agree with me that it involves a lot of investment. Think back to when you first fell in love. I still remember clearly. There's this thing we used to do back then where we make night calls. So you get cheaper rates when you make night calls. And I remember staying awake all night just talking all sorts of rubbish on phone. But that's what you do. You invest time, you invest resource when you're building a relationship. And so the best thing you can do as a parent is to invest in your relationship with your young person. And what that does for you is, so whatever case it is with this young person, if it is that he has gone to meet someone, a good relationship would allow your young person to tell you things that even if he doesn't tell you everything completely, you would pick, those unspoken things that would give you an idea of what's happening in his head. But if it is also the other case that it's the splash that we're talking about, if you have a good relationship with your young person, they would be able to tell you their challenges and the pressures they are under, and that might avoid them getting to that point where it could be the splash thing. So good relationship is the first thing. I can keep talking about this good relationship thing for a whole day because that's one of the best things you can do. And honestly, you need to start early because once you lose that trust, once they don't see you as the person they can come to, it's gone. And so that's number one. Number two, I'm sure you would expect me to say, put in all this parental lock and all of those passwords and all of those things. But no, I'm reserving that for the third. The second thing really is to keep your young people away from the online space. I have children too, and the approach I have adopted is I'm pushing them for as far as I can. It's becoming more difficult. For example, there's no PS5 in my house. I must confess that I won't be able to push that for too long. And not really because my kids are pressuring me for it. It's because friends come around and they are beginning to look like weirdos. So I'm going to have to get something for them. But if I do, I'm going to restrict it to offline games as much as I can. I would make sure there's no opportunity for them to communicate with anyone online. Because this whole thing of saying you're putting parental lock and password, they are far smarter than you are. They would circumvent anything you think you're putting in place. They are far smarter than you are. And so I wouldn't recommend that as the second option. The second option, in my opinion, is to keep them offline for as long as you can. I've made a number of videos where I talked about, how the teenager's brain is not fully developed, especially the aspect that makes logical decisions and choices. So what you want to do is to push them for as long as you can so that that brain develops to a point where they really understand the pros and cons. And another element of that first point of building relationships is you need to show them these things. When you come across this news online of these things happening, show it to them, sit down, have a conversation about these things. Let them understand clearly the dangers that lurk in those online spaces. So if you push them for as long as you can, and it gets to a point, because you're definitely going to fail at some point. There's only how far you can push them without the online space. If you eventually give in to letting them go online, you can then begin to think of those practical measures to put in place. And I wouldn't spend any time telling you. There are lots of resources online telling you of things you can do, things like strong passwords. One thing I would always recommend is to situate the game in a place where you can come and spend time with them when they're playing. So rather than keeping a game in their bedroom so that they're playing in the night and nobody knows what they're doing, I would situate the game somewhere that I can come and sit with them and spend hours watching them or playing with them. That way, if they're chatting with someone, the person might just drop a message in your presence and you would see it and you can have a conversation about it. So I would never allow my young person to have a game in the bedroom or somewhere where they have access to it. It would be in a space where we all can come and play together and sit down there and watch what they do. So there are a lot of practical steps you can take. I'm not going to dwell on those. For me, is one, build good relationships so that you can have good and strong conversations with them. Two, push it for as long as you can. And then number three, if you give in and you eventually allow them to go online, put practical measures in place. And let me just quickly add a few tips, a few things you can start seeing that would make you know that something might be going wrong. So number one is, if your young person starts being secretive and they don't want to play game where you are, they prefer to play when you're not around, they're doing things secretly, that's a pointer that there's a conversation to be had. And again, it traces back to that relationship thing, because at that point, what you want to do is to cash into that relationship you've built with them and try to reach what might be going on and what might be happening. And so, back to the story of Thomas Medlin, it is my hope and prayer that he comes back home. There's a touching part of the video that I've not been able to get over. And again, like I said, I'll link it so you can watch it. The mom said that she prays and she hopes he's seen her because she's wearing blue, his favorite color. And that really touched me. This is a desperate mom hoping and praying that her son would come home. And so it is my prayer that this story would end with a happy ending. But whatever it is, to be forewarned, they say, is to be forearmed. So please take these things seriously. And again, that's why we're here. Some people have lost the trust of their teenagers already. You might need a third party to get involved. And that's one of the things we do. We help parents who are struggling with their young people. So get in touch. We would be more than happy to give you bespoke or tailored advice on things you could do. And we're also happy to give mentoring and coaching support. So just get in touch and we'll be more than happy to help you. But for now, please subscribe, like, share, and let this message get there. That's the least you can do for other people, right? Let them get this message so they are also forewarned and so they can be forearmed. Thanks again for spending this lovely time with us. I'll see you again shortly.